Unitics like to show up at their present time is comfortable for them, so we'll let them trickle in as they come. But we could start the service with the call to worship. That's on the top of the order of service, which you can find in the back chair for anybody who's trickling in.
My apologies. You
That's
know
all right.
I'm never late.
Oh, you're closer
But now
than
you
most.
could say
You're
never.
closer than most. Yeah, let's see what develops here.
Okay, I brought my daily word here.
Very good, thank you. Call to worship. Work together, please.
There is
But one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent.
Okay. The first song is called Believe by Josh Groban.
Oh,
Oh, you want? Oh, no, left one up there for
Children sleeping, snow is softly falling, dreams are calling, like bells in the distance. We were dreamers, not so long.
I'm sorry to bother you, but if anybody wants a poinsettia, sorry. If anybody wants a poinsettia,
If you just believe, trains move quickly to the journey's end. Destinations are where we begin again. Ships go sailing far across the sea, trusting starlight to get where they need to be. When it seems that we have lost our way, we find ourselves again on Christmas Day. Believe in what your heart is saying, hear the melody that's playing. There's no time to waste, there's so much to celebrate. Believe in what you feel inside and give your dreams the wings to fly. You have everything you need if you just believe. If you just believe. If you just believe. If you just believe. Just believe. Just
Who would like to share?
So I haven't been here in a while. It's been over a year. And I came to hear my friend Pamela speak. And I am reunited with my friend Lorna, whom I haven't seen in a while. And behind Lorna's head is a song that my mother loved.
Oh.
She passed away in February, and so she's here.
Oh.
And when she was dying, my siblings and I circled around her and held hands. We said, "Mom, what do you want us to pray for?" And she goes, "World peace." She said, "I don't know why there has to be war, but world peace." And we all laughed because she's all, and that was one of her songs I used to listen to her sing in church. So.
Judy, we're gonna actually circle around and sing that.
Oh, God.
We played our service with that song in a circle. And this week we will dedicate it to your mother.
Okay.
What's her first name?
Patty.
Patty? I will try to remember the name.
Okay.
But that's
Thank you
still
so
hours
much.
away.
You can
We're
keep
not
it there.
But remember, everybody else should remember too, when we do the peace song today. It's in memory of Patty.
Thank you.
Yeah, John Lennon sang about peace also. He wanted to see world peace. And we're still waiting for it. But we can have peace in our hearts.
Well, see, the peace in our heart, if we manifest that forward, we bring about world peace.
I think world peace is like a moment by moment, place by place.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, if we sit around and wait, it's not going to happen. But our responsibility to bring it by bringing our own peace into the world. Well, who was it, Gandhi?
Gandhi.
The Dalai Lama said, "Be the change that you want to see in the world.
Mm.
If you want world peace, bring peace into the world."
Mm.
And you know what? It's what Pamela and I were talking about earlier too. Seek and you shall find. If you're looking for peace, you'll find it.
Mm.
You know, the conflicts, the global conflicts and all that stuff, that's a political game that goes on in other people's worlds. It doesn't have to necessarily be part of ours. I don't know. Getting carried away. Any other unity moments. Hello, Joyce. That is the order of service in the song she's back there.
That's kind of like when you're on the airplane and they tell you you have to put your own mask on.
Yeah,
Take care of yourself before you can help others. That's how I look at.
yeah.
I have to create my own peace before I can help other people. Like what you were saying.
And it may not necessarily be work. It can come to you. If I've been, reading now well, I had read The Untethered Soul, another book by Michael Singer. And, so I read little,
Well, peace is part of our
Every night.
innate divine nature.
yes.
It's
yeah.
something that we don't have to make.
Go out but to recognize it or to,
It's not anything that we make, it's something that we
that's right.
are inherited with. Basically, it's part of our divine nature. We just have to uncover it, share it. And then that spiritual principle is to give is to have. If you give that peace to somebody else, you have it yourself. You know, it multiplies. It's one of those things, you don't diminish the supply of it by giving it away. Anything of the divine nature is along those ways. Peace, joy, love. The more you give, the more it expands. And exponentially, I might add too,
Yeah.
You give peace to somebody else, you get it back, and they go on to give it to somebody else. And you never know how this is going to work. And Neil Donald Walsh, was it? Saying that critical mass is not necessarily more than 50%, it's only a small percentage. So if you bring peace and it expands, critical mass may happen before we know it. Keep praying. Come on, other unity moments. Anything like Christmas time? I know for me, Donna family does not celebrate Christmas in the traditional sense. But on Monday before Christmas, they celebrated Festivus from the Seinfeld episode. Where everybody in the family had a nice family dinner, and then we exchanged presents. And Donna has 4 grandchildren, 2 1-year-olds, a 2-year-old, and a 9-year-old. So that gave me an opportunity to experience the joy of Christmas from children, because in my position at this time, I didn't have children in my life. So it was nice that was brought to me. It brought me a unity moment. I mean, a 2-year-old little boy, I'd say, jump, and he'd go. Feet would not leave the ground, but he did all the other motions. It was so heartwarming to watch him. Jump, Santino, jump. You'd have to see it, you'd have to
I
be
can see
there.
a toddler doing that. They can't jump, they can barely walk.
The feet were planted firmly on the ground, but everything else was jumping in, you could tell. Any other, Maria?
My daughter was home from Amsterdam, so she was
Great.
here for a whole week.
Very good.
Wow.
Nice.
That's gotta be nice.
Yeah.
Anything else? If not, we could move along to the blessing of our prayer. Liana?
Yes, could I request some prayers, please?
We're just moving right into that part.
Are you?
Yes.
Great, okay.
Perfect timing.
See, they show up at the right perfect time. Didn't I tell you that?
Skip's older granddaughter has been pregnant, and everybody was just celebrating all over the place and making a really special time of all of this. And all of a sudden, she became very ill, and they ended up having to do a cesarean and keep the baby. This was all yesterday morning, just
Oh, wow.
blue down in Florida. The last I heard, Mama is coming along. She's got a big recovery of her own, and the baby is starting to take over on her own. So she's all of pound 13 ounces. But there's a lot of family there. This, again, as I say, is in Florida. And it just is one of those unbelievable total turns of life, you know. Yeah. And so Mama's name is Samantha, and I think the baby is Macy. So
This is what we turn to, the affirmative prayer of knowing that God is in all situations.
There is hope. That just reminds me of a grandmother who said she was born like weighing that or whatever, and they put her in whatever area they used to hatch the chickens.
yeah.
And she lived. It was where it was,
Like
meant to be.
incubator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Today's neo cares. Phenomenal too.
Yeah.
The things they can do.
yeah. Yes, certainly, I'll remember her.
Well, definitely. Vanessa and Macy.
Macy, yeah.
And how early was it for the baby?
Well, I'm not clear. I think she was due in March.
Oh, that's,
Wow. Wow.
And it appears that it was, my guess is that it was undiagnosed early. So that you may have heard of the HELP syndrome, which is what they're calling it. But it's that condition that starts early in some pregnancies, but I don't think that she was diagnosed properly.
Kept in the prayer request. Any other prayer requests that want to be provided?
Yeah, my daughter left to go back to Hawaii sometime in the middle of the night, and she got there in the morning, and she's on call with her husband, who has a loose tendon that isn't responding, and they're going to see the surgeon doctor either today or tomorrow, and it looks like there's a treatment in Florida that could actually remedy this, which would be a true miracle if it happens, because right now he can't use, he's a guitarist, he can't use the hand, and he can't use the other hand either, and there's a lymph that's kind of seeping into his whole system. So anyway, it sounds, I don't know, I'm leaving it up to my daughter. My daughter is the tie line to the husband and God and the doctor. And this would be a true blessing, if there was a good diagnosis. So I want to pray for Tom.
Pray for Tom.
And for my daughter Lisa.
Yeah, right. Oh.
So our blessing of the prayer request can be found on the order of service if we say it together. God's
All-encompassing love is doing its perfect work in and through us. Wholeness is established in every area of our lives, and so it is.
All-encompassing love. Reminds me that whatever the outcome, it's feel God doing His perfect work. And like I said, affirmative prayer and unity is always trying to see God at work in all circumstances. So that's the blessing of our prayer request. Lorna, you have the daily word?
Yes, I remembered to bring it.
Thank you.
Okay. Through spiritual connectedness, I find my strength. Knowing that I'm a member of the human family and belong to a greater community of faith awakens my inner sense of spiritual strength and power. James, is it Dillett or Delay? Dillett, okay. Freeman, former director of the Silent Unity Prayer Ministry, once described redwood trees as the perfect metaphor for this shared spiritual strength. You know, you'll never see a redwood standing alone, he said. It takes several of them to intertwine those shallow roots and remain standing. That's perfect for today. Redwoods are like us, I suppose. They find their strength in community. My spiritual roots are intertwined with all of humanity. I am strengthened by my shared interconnectedness in God. Your hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord had made them both, has made them both. Proverbs 20:12.
Well, that's sort of what we're talking about, her daughter being that tie between
Yes.
her husband, God, and the doctors. And there is that unity there, that praying for the whole, all-encompassing love.
I didn't know that about redwoods. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Amazing,
Yeah.
huh?
Makes sense because they're so small.
I know, driving through Utah one time, I saw a whole mountainside filled with, what were they, Alps? Or not Alps, with, I forget the tree now.
Yeah.
But whatever, it was all one living organism. The whole mountainside
Wow.
had connected roots
Wow.
that I later learned was all one living organism. Probably considered the largest living organism in the Western Hemisphere. Because it was fantastic. It was in late May, so they looked like birch trees, but bigger.
Huh.
And they had light green new leaves on them. And I was really impressed with the sight of them. Then I learned more about them, connected roots and everything else.
And what state were you in? Do you
And
remember?
Utah.
Oh, Utah had it.
So thanks for the daily word. It's time for prayer and meditation. I'm not really good at guided meditation, but I think we have a thought process going on here about the connectedness of all and community. And if we could all try to see our connectedness with each other, with God, with the earth. It might help to put your feet firmly on the ground, feel a connection with the earth. And feel the energy vibrating from the others in the room. Feeling that expanding out. And in, it's sort of like, which is going out, which is coming in, but the energy is vibrating. We're all connected in one sea of energy. And that our prayers, when we bring peace into the world, it brings peace to everyone, seen and unseen. It's time for special music.
It's called Sun. It's the one in the sky right now. But you can interpret it how you like.
It's there.
Yeah, it is there. That's what the song's about. Okay. Across the earth, the sun is shining for free, without borders, unconditionally. The Holy Spirit never
funny, just like the sun, and I hope I don't rain on your parade. I believe it's time for Dr. Pamela Moss.
Okay.
Oh, that's right.
It's okay. Oh, look at
Oh,
it.
yeah,
It's
you
so
did
hard.
it.
Okay. So today we're talking about turning points. In fact, because this time right now, between Christmas and New Year, is a between time. And the ancients believed that between times, times between one holiday and the next, between one marker and the next, were times with a lot of power and potency and a lot of possibility. A lot of things can move around in between times, positively or negatively. It's just a lot of potential and extra energy to be used if you are wise enough to recognize it for what it is. So turning points, you probably, if you thought about it, you could think of some times in your life, moments that were a turning point. Like I think for myself, the moment I had my first child, the moment she came out of my body, was a moment which changed my life forever. Right? Like there's no question that that was a life-changing moment that's reflected out in so many ways. And there have been other times too, like I remember signing up for a program, a year-long program, which I learned all kinds of things that are foundational to my work now. And you all think of those times in your life that were turning points, and sometimes they're turning points that expand in this huge new realm that you didn't even know was possible, and grew you so much. And other times the turning points seem to go in a darker direction, like we've gone on underworld journeys where we went through a lot of suffering and grief, or things seemed really hard. But either way these turning points go, this time right now is a really powerful time to create a turning point. You can actually create them, not let them just wait for them to happen to you. You can actually create one. So we're going to talk today about how you can do that. We're actually going to do that while we're talking today. And we're going to use actually two key unity principles. And one of them you already talked about today, which is that we are co-creators with God. And basically, we're creating reality every moment by the thoughts that we hold in mind. And some of those thoughts we're not fully conscious of. They are still creating our reality. So part of our job as people who want to be aware and awake is to become aware of wherever we're resisting and holding thoughts that are not for our highest and best good. But in Unity, we talk about the way we do that is through affirmations. And also Unity talks about denials, but I tend to think of it more as conscious choices. Like, I choose this. Not which is sort of meaning I don't choose that, I choose this. So that's how I think about it, is conscious choices and affirmations. So we're going to use this time, this moment today, this time that we are in this in-between time, to tap into where we have been, and that means looking at our past, this past year, and this past decade, because this particular turning point, this particular pivot point is a very big one. It's between 2 decades, not just 2 years. So if you think back to your life, where you were in 2009, and what was going on in your life, and just like a little mental slideshow, show you some of the key moments of 2009 and 10, 11, all the way up to this moment now. Just sort of do a little mental slideshow review, and look and see for yourself, like what are some of those moments that stand out to yourself? And they maybe stand out in what we call a positive way or negative way, it doesn't really matter. Just kind of taking a little mental tour of your last decade. And I'm asking you to look at this last decade that went on and see if there was a theme for this last decade for you, what would that theme be? I can tell you from what my theme is, and I'm also curious to hear what your theme is. Mine would be like, grow me like crazy. please grow me like crazy. Like I want to grow and develop, beyond anything I can imagine. Which is kind of like saying, make me fail fast. help me see all my obstacles. I didn't quite realize that when I said that. Yeah, Vera?
I would say learning to trust life more the past decade. So to be more at peace and to choose that and not take life so seriously. That
Beautiful.
Eternity is always there, so these momentary things that happen kind of for the moment, and then there's always something possibly new.
Right. Yeah, if we allow it every moment, there's new change. Things only feel like there's no newness. We're not allowing it. We're just focusing on the things that are stuck. And that keeps us feeling stuck. Anybody else want to share what your theme was? Or you noticed? Just, you don't have to. Just once again. Yeah.
I'm not sure, but as I'm recalling these 10 years, I've done a lot of healing, and I've always called myself the reluctant healer. So it was tapping into my own divinity and into the healer within me, and realizing that I do have some gifts to offer the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Not so reluctant anymore.
yeah.
Okay, a little reluctant. Thank you for sharing that.
Among other things, I would say the decade is a new understanding and acceptance of prosperity and abundance in my life.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had better times with more material things.
That's
but I
not true
wasn't
about us.
acknowledging
Yeah.
abundance and prosperity in the same light that I recognize it today.
Beautiful, yeah. It's so amazing and empowering when we realize our perspective is so decisive about our experience of life. You can have all the riches in the world, but if you feel impoverished inside, you don't experience that abundance and richness you have. You always are thinking about what you don't have. And that's a really profound demonstration of that. It's not based on the external circumstances, even though our culture certainly wants us to believe that. So these are all good thoughts and helpful thoughts. So what we're going to do is we're going to, unless there's anybody else who wants to say something about this, and we could spend a lot more time looking at the whole year and so on, like to really see what are the themes of them. The other thing I'd like to ask you is like, what would you say is like your biggest, hey Sherry, hey guys, if you were looking back over either the last, let's just try with just this last year, 2019, which we're coming to the end of right now. If you were to look and see, what is the biggest gift that I got, or the biggest lesson I got, sometimes they're one and the same. And the biggest gift may not, I don't mean necessarily like someone handed you a big box. I mean, like, what is the biggest gift you received for your own spiritual development, for your own growth, for your own peace and fulfillment? It might be a moment, it might be a relationship, it might be any number of things. What was the biggest gift you got? Yeah, Judy.
Grief.
Grief. Oh, say some more about that, because I think many people would say grief is a gift.
Well, I think for me, all my life, I have avoided grief and was afraid of it and was afraid to be overwhelmed by it. And then when my mother died, that's all I knew. And it's something that takes over you, it overwhelms you, it fills you, but it also, as it breaks your heart open, it breaks your heart and it breaks your heart open so more light can come through. And if you have to cognitively choose that, you're not going to.
No, it says more grief, please.
So there are gifts in even the worst moments, and that's what I'm learning.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
May that resonate out for whoever needs to hear that. Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share the grief? And sometimes when you go through something so challenging, it's very obvious. It's everything is focused on that one thing. Like grief is, is the biggest lesson and biggest gift. But sometimes if it's not so dramatic, we don't necessarily notice. But any other people have a gift they want to share that they can
Two
see?
things.
Yeah.
2011, that flood. I woke up one morning, I was no longer wearing the same clothes, doing the same things, living in the same place. And everything was turned upside down. Definitely was a turning point.
Yeah.
That was a gift because it brought me new things.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, yesterday marked 2 years since I died.
Since you
Died.
died.
I died of a heart attack, yeah.
Oh.
And I was
Yeah.
revived. So
Wow.
that was a turning point too.
Yeah. Did you have a near-death experience or just?
I got cheated. I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. I said, "Oh my God, it's New Jersey."
You are ready.
He's worked on that line, I can tell. Awesome. Anybody else want to share a gift or a lesson that you got from this last year or earlier? Go ahead, Sherry.
I had to, I thought that I was going online for, it was called Soul Speaks. I was asked to go online and do a presentation. And so I thought that they would come and talk to me and get to know me before this presentation, and that I would have some prep work and they'd let me know the questions that they were going to ask me.
You tell where this is going.
And so Friday, I was supposed to be on Friday at 3, but I didn't hear anything in the morning from them, so I figured, no, I'm not going to be on. And so I went about my merry way. I got home about 45 minutes beforehand, and I saw that they had written me, and he said, you'll be on at 3. I did not I had not even showered at that point. I had been out running around getting groceries and everything else. So this was without scripting, without meeting this person, and had to get a little makeup on prep beforehand. So it was an amazing challenge for me, and I was shaking before I went on because I was like, I have no idea. I've never met this guy. I don't know what he's going to ask of me. And then you have to speak, I found out, for a full hour. And so it was quite a challenge for me. And he said, yes, you'll be on in London at 8 p.m. tonight. You'll be in Australia and New Zealand tomorrow. And it's around the United States. And it was amazing. And he was having technical difficulties. So it went down. And my daughter said, keep going, keep going. And I told him, we just talked beforehand how God has a great sense of humor. When he went off on his side and I continued, I squinted my eyes and looked really close, apparently at the screen, and then I put my head down so you saw my whole head that looked like a basketball at the screen, and then I come up and I go, oh, I don't know about this. Because he was gone, and I finally kept going and kept talking. I had some books next to me and I was just like winging it, right? And he came back on and he says, I was trying to email you that if you decided to go off, but he says, hey, we're back. And so we went on for another half hour after the first half hour, and it all worked out. And I could not believe the comments of people from around the world. They said, I did a great job. He asked me to come back again, which I thought was funny. And that was all Friday afternoon that took place.
Sherry, what's the lesson of that? Because you got a gift. What was the gift or the lesson you received?
And the gift was that Jerry had really said it perfectly, that it's called Soul Speaks 5D. And he said it was your soul speaking. He said it wasn't your personality.
Right, your personality
so when you're put on the spot like that, you really do have to come from your soul at that point. And yes, I think that it taught me a great lesson that it's okay. Nothing has to be scripted. And that, it has a lot to do, too. I thanked all the people I ever met or who I knew because that helps to make me who I am today. And so he said, well, what was one of your greatest lessons? And I said, it wasn't a particular event. It was all my life, of all the people that have accumulated in my life who have touched my hearts and helped me along the way, that were the most important.
Yeah. And that seems like that itself is kind of a pivot point. Like you went into what would seem like a disaster, and instead something broke open and let your soul speak and really touch people around the world. Like that's awesome. So we're going to talk a bit more about these turning points, these pivot points. When you have something like that happen, you can use that to propel you forward in a new direction, which would be continually to speak from that deeper knowing and not trying to figure it out with your head.
Yes.
And or you could turn back the old way, but it won't work the same way. It's a pivot point. Simply something's shifted. So you can keep going in that direction. There's momentum there.
And it was so totally unexpected.
Right.
Because, I didn't have time to say no. It was like I was on.
Yeah, beautiful. It's so great when life just says, boom, you're on. You're like, what, me? Yeah, awesome. Good. Anybody else feel like they want to share something there? Or are we going to go ahead? Yeah, okay, good. So there's the things we learned in the past, the gifts and lessons, and we can spend a lot of time digging them up, and you all have a lot of them if we spend some time doing that. What I want to do now is to actually get in touch with the pivot point right now, with the point right now, which is a turning point for you. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to guide you through a little short meditation to kind of get out of your head and drop down. So I invite you to close your eyes, or if you're not comfortable, just look down. And what I'd like you to do is to imagine, first of all, just notice your breathing. Notice that you are breathing, because you always are, whether you're noticing it or not. Just notice the breath is coming in and it's going out again. And as you're bringing your attention to your breath and just noticing, breathing in, breathing out. I invite you to notice that there's a little pause at the end of each exhale before you inhale again. And at the top of each inhale, there's a little pause before you breathe out again. Those pauses are also the space between, just like we're in the space between in the calendar right now, between the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. It's not a big pause. And also notice as you're breathing that your heart is beating. You may be able to even become aware of it, feel it physically in your body, or you may not, either way, but just notice your heart is beating. And just like there's a pause between breaths, there's also a pause between your heartbeats, so you can become aware of that. If you can't, it's okay, just notice that's happening. And there's also noticing your thoughts, whatever they are, and just noticing that even between your thoughts, there's a pause between one thought and the next thought. There's that space between. So this in-between space is full of potential. In this in-between space, there's everything and there's nothing. It's pregnant with possibility. It's like the cosmic womb. So in this space, between breaths, thoughts, heartbeats, it's a creation. There's a possibility for something to be born there, to get planted there. And I invite you now to see in front of you, your imagination, a seed, whatever the seed looks like. And this seed is your divine essence. It's divine in you, your potential, your full, true potential. And see this seed dropping down into the earth. And it's just waiting there, in stillness and darkness. And you can ask that seed, what do you need most right now? Let the seed give you an answer, whether you see something or hear something, or sense something or feel something. And you ask, what do you need most right now? Just see what response you get. What does that seed need most right now? And I'm going to invite you to sort of popcorn style to just say, if you're getting a word or an image, just what that is. What is your seed telling you that you need most right now?